Hi there, this is Tiffany. We're back with another episode to talk about the hidden things that are keeping you stuck in your metabolism and why you cannot get into those fat stores. This one, episode 3, we're talking about the hidden way stress slows your metabolism. This is one of the things I talk with women about all the time. I've experienced it myself. I think it is one of the hardest things to actually deal with. I also believe we often sort of underestimate how much stress has an effect on our health. We're going to be talking about that, and it has nothing to do with your willpower or any of your efforts. Often it is your stress. And I don't just mean feeling busy, I'm talking about the physiological stress signals your body perceives and receives every single day from things like lack of sleep, chronic dieting, blood sugar swings, overtraining, and emotional pressures. And this is on top of daily life stressors. Because when your body perceives stress, it shifts into survival mode. And survival mode is not the environment where metabolism thrives. So let's get started. Let's talk about that physiological stress in more detail. We talked about chronic dieting and chronic undereating. We've talked about that a couple times now. And that contributes to the physiological stress because it causes inflammation in the body and it causes the blood sugar swings because now your insulin and your glucose don't work very efficiently. Your sleep is affected. And then if you get into intense exercises because you want to compensate for maybe eating poorly or because you're frustrated with weight loss, that also can cause stress and inflammation in the body, especially if you're not taking the time to recover. If you become ill or have a chronic disease that causes inflammation, this leads to more and more cortisol, and stress in your body is always on fire. You're in fight or flight mode all the time. Emotional stress and burnout will contribute to this fight or flight response, and eventually sometimes people get in that freeze mode where they just can't do anything. Your body doesn't separate the physical stress from the emotional stress. It doesn't matter if it's a good stress or a bad stress. That's something that we do to sort of compartmentalize or to try to justify the kind of stresses we have. It doesn't care. It processes both of the stresses, the both kinds of stress, emotional, physical, or good or bad, into the same hormonal system. We know about cortisol. People have talked about that a lot. People are pretty savvy about that, but the stress hormone can be explained in just really simple terms. It's designed to increase your blood sugar, which sounds kind of crazy. I'll explain that in a minute. It will mobilize your energy. It helps the body respond to threats. Short-term stress is helpful. Chronic stress is disruptive. Short-term stress equals helpful. Chronic stress equals disruptive. That is not going to be helpful. Most people tend to live in chronic stress on top of the short-term stress from daily living. With chronically elevated cortisol, before it might crash, because I've seen that too. I've had that happen to myself where you have high cortisol for a long time, then all of a sudden it's on the floor and you can barely function day to day. It causes fatigue, blood sugar instability, cravings, muscle breakdown, and then fat storage in the abdomen, and definitely sleep deprivation. Well, cortisol isn't necessarily the enemy here, but chronic cortisol is a problem. Again, it's a signal, it's a messenger, and we just plow through and don't listen to it. We just keep on keeping on because that's how we function in this society. It's not a good thing. It's not a virtuous thing. How stress slows your metabolism is something that needs to be addressed. When you are stressed, your body will the cortisol will raise your blood sugar. And then that signals the liver to release glucose. If this happens constantly on repeat, your insulin now rises, your fat storage increases, and your energy crashes will follow. And this leads to the cravings and the crash cycle that so many people experience. And this leads to insulin resistance and potentially prediabetes, type 2 diabetes. That is the path where we go down for that. If it's not taken in, if you're not taking charge of it. Your stress will also break down your muscle, which is your most metabolically active tissue. This chronic Cortisol promotes the protein breakdown. It will reduce the repair of those muscles, which again keeps the slower metabolism. So muscle supports metabolism, but stress can slowly take it away. It can slowly erode it. When we have chronic stress as well, and I know you've experienced this, it will disrupt your sleep. And poor sleep, again, increases your cortisol. It will increase your hormone that signals your hunger. That's your ghrelin, which stimulates your appetite. And it can cause the sugar spikes, and you'll crave more sugar. You'll crave those carbohydrates that turn into sugar, which leads to have more fatigue the next day, lower motivation to exercise, low mood. It affects everything. It just kind of spirals downward. Stress reduces, again, that thyroid efficiency. That chronic stress and thyroid do not work well together at all. It impairs the conversion of T4 to T3, and that creates the fatigue, the cold intolerance, more slow metabolism, brain fog, and this will connect directly to how your thyroid actually functions. Let's talk about the signs that your body is stuck in stress mode. This resonates a ton with many of the people that I work with, and it's why I work with so many people like this. It was my experience as well. But oftentimes people will have energy crashes at 2 to 3 p.m., but then they're awake at 2 to 3 a.m. Roughly those times. It can vary a little bit, but that's generally speaking where I see this fall. You're constantly feeling overwhelmed, and you have a difficult time losing fat despite all of your efforts. If you chronically crave sugar and caffeine, if you believe with your whole heart that you need caffeine to make it through the day, this is a good sign that you're in this state. And if you're feeling wired but tired, especially at 10 p.m. when you're supposed to go to bed, this is a sign that stress has taken over for you. Brain fog is also another thing that a lot of people complain about, and that when they do work out, their recovery from the workout seems to take them out for quite a while. It's not like they can work out and just go back the next day and feel fine. They feel more exhausted after working out. These are not the signs that you're doing something wrong. It's that there's signals your body is under too much stress. And this is why pushing harder often makes things worse. We end up by eating less because we're stressed. We exercise more because we think that will feel good and help relieve some stress. We push through the fatigue. We don't listen to our body's, sleep signals, basically, and this increases the stress signals even more. So stress and fatigue cycle looks something like this for a lot of people. You might be fatigued. You might rely on more caffeine or energy drinks, things like that. Then we have a blood sugar crash in response to the excess caffeine that people are drinking or eating. And then that causes more stress hormones to be released. And that leads to exhaustion. That's just kind of how that works. Basically, you can't outwork a stressed nervous system. You have to reduce these stress signals to the body. And here are some practical solutions to do that. And so much of this goes back to one, at least, main core thing that applies to everything I've talked about in these episodes about this topic is you have to have stabilized blood sugar, which is going to come from a balanced meal. I want you to get rid of the fad diets, the quick fix diets, the dietary dogma of having to eat a certain way. I want you to get back to basics and eat proteins, healthy fats and fiber, and complex carbs at each meal. If you haven't done that basic eating for years, now's the time to start, because that will start getting your metabolism going in the right direction for once and for all. This will help stabilize that blood sugar and reduce the cortisol spikes that come with that. The second thing you need to do is to prioritize your sleep. This is going to be a job for you. If you haven't prioritized sleep, or if you are proud of the fact that you think you can work perfectly fine on 5 hours of sleep, yet you're pounding caffeine drinks, not eating, or eating just on the run, this is your sign to prioritize your sleep and do it like it's as important as your job. Make sure that you're having some kind of sleep hygiene at nighttime, having the same bedtime as much as possible, possible and the same wake time as much as possible. This alone will help regulate your hormones, helps with your recovery, and it will start to restore your metabolic functioning. This consistent sleep timing and sleep in general, and improving your sleep so you get at least 7 hours, maybe up to 9 hours of sleep. I guarantee if you work on this and you push to it, once you're hitting that 8 hour mark, you're going to start feeling different. We need to support the nervous system. This is step 3. You can do this by deep breathing exercises, using meditation or mindfulness, different kinds of apps, like just taking the time to do that a few times a day, at least once a day in the morning to set up your day. That is going to be very helpful for you. Walking outside, just getting some light in your eyes. It doesn't have to be a power walk. You don't have to sweat. You don't have to get your heart rate up to a certain level. You just need to go outside, walk around the block, take 10 minutes, whatever it might be. That's going to help you because you're going to get sunlight exposure and you're going to get out of the overstimulation from sitting at your desk, sitting at your computer, whatever it may be. It's nice to step away just 5 to 10 minutes a day. This will help shift the body out of that survival mode and get it into just like rest and digest and a calmer mode. That's how your body will start to heal its metabolism, among many other things. Again, under eating is going to keep the stress level high. Regular meals 3 times a day will signal safety to the body. We've talked about that a lot. I'm not going to harp too much more on that. I feel like that is pretty clear what is important here. And then again, instead of overtraining, do some strength training. Do it 2 to 3 times a week. If you haven't done this before, take some walks. That kind of thing can be your activity. Think of movement versus exercise, especially if you know you are a stressed out person. Just start somewhere. Start with a resistance training with bands, with body weight, and you can move to heavier weights when you feel better. This will improve your metabolic function. It will for sure improve your insulin sensitivity, but the recovery is key. Give yourself time to recover. You don't need to work out 2 hours a day, 1 hour a day. It can be 15 minutes, it can be 30 minutes. Just do something a few times a week that causes your body to really work on building those muscles. And what you need to understand is that if you feel exhausted and your metabolism feels stuck, it might not be because you're not trying hard enough or that you don't have that willpower. It might be because your body is receiving too many stress signals. And if you think about it, if you stop and think how you function throughout your day, even if it looks normal for you, it may not be normal for your body. When we lower those signals and create a sense of safety in the body, your metabolism often begins to recover. If you're feeling stuck in this cycle of fatigue, stress, and metabolic slowdown, this is exactly what I help women do inside all of my programs. You can learn more about this by going to my website, tiffanyflayton.com, and you can fill out the application if you are ready and sick and tired of being sick and tired. If you just want to get going, you can fill out that application, or you can set up a call. We can discuss things more and we can find out what the best fit is for you. I'd love to see you there. All right, we'll be back next time to talk about more things metabolism.